Good afternoon, everyone. We're back here in the next installment of our female executive video series. We're joined by Leanne Taylor, Chief Operating Officer of Citrix, with over 20 years of commercial and business strategy leadership across Africa, UK, Australia, now leading the business in Asia Pacific. So she has a wealth of knowledge, and more importantly, she's sincere on this topic, which we all care. So let's get right into it. Leanne, first question we're going to ask you today, the biggest challenge that you think is up for the next generation of female leaders here in Asia?
I think the biggest challenge that we're going to face with the next generation of women coming up is making sure that they really understand work-life choice. So, coming up in my generation, we always spoke around work-life balance. I think as you generate, the activity that you do and you move into roles that take on more and more responsibility, it's not necessarily about balance, but choice. And creating that choice for yourself really early on about these are the times that I choose to be with family and these are the times that I choose to be at work. And being very comfortable about segregating the two. Knowing that you're capable of delivering and that you're also capable of being, a mum or a partner and so forth. So I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is about making sure that they really understand how to find sponsors. I think most of us, we look at our careers and the progression, we've all had incredible sponsors, and those sponsors have been both male or female. So making sure that you really understand how to connect with somebody, both in your business, but in your industry as well, that is prepared to sponsor and go the mile for you based on what you're capable of delivering. And then I think the next challenge is going to be paying it forward. So not just focusing on, the progression that I'm doing or where I'm going, but how can I go and find, 3, 4, 5 other women that I'm able to bring forward along with me in a journey. And I think insofar as we're creating that mindset and behavior, we're going to be scaling the ability to change the way we work in the workplace.
What woman has inspired you the most?
Frances Frey is a Harvard business professor, leader that just absolutely inspires me. In terms of her thinking around sponsorship and building trust in organizations, she's super focused on using logic and authenticity to drive action. So when I look at people who've gone out there and had different impacts in leadership organizations, because her impact is broad, it's not just as an individual sponsoring others, but she sponsors leadership teams to really drive and think differently. So she's somebody who certainly inspires me.
As a leader yourself, how do you engage with and empower others?
I think I first and foremost give thought. What I've learned to do is to assume that somebody's in a role because they earned the ability to be in that role. Making sure that we're creating an environment where people want to engage and an environment where you want to come to work and choose to deliver collectively against a common purpose. So what are we all doing to get there? Setting very clear expectations is important to me. I think that when I look at the environments that I've seen or teams that I've built or been a part of that have done well, it's because we all understand and to what we're trying to deliver. So creating that environment where everybody comes in and says, hey, I actually want to change something. I want to do something better and I want to do something more.
The best advice you've ever received?
I worked very early on in my career for a fantastic man from Zambia. And something he said to me early on is, if you can't be replaced, you can't be promoted. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh, that means somebody's better than me. Yeah, you want to go and find the best talent in the organization and go and develop that talent, because you've constantly got to be looking to say, how are we up-leveling every single element of our organization? So find people who can replace you, find people who can grow into the roles that you're in, and making sure that they're going to be comfortable in those roles long after you're not in that organization, so that you can move on and do other things, whether it's laterally or vertically. But that's a piece of advice that is stuck in my mind, and I often talk to that when I talk to people that I mentor.
Share with us now some ways that you've gained more confidence in yourself over the years as a leader.
I've learned to be comfortable with saying I don't know the answer. I have an insatiable curiosity on on most things. And I feel super confident simply to share with people. And I don't know the answer or the outcome. I know what we're driving towards. And I know what we can do is to go and find the right people to put together, and collectively we can start to drive outcomes. But I don't always know the answer. So, I'm confident just to be me. This is me. And I think that the more authentic you are, without, an overuse of the word authentic, the more authentic you are, the more trustworthy you are. People are not going to trust you if you're not being you. So I think those are the two spaces that I've really learned as I've progressed in my career, to be comfortable on leading teams in that manner.
Let's talk about you now as a mentor. Why is it so important to you?
Yeah, so it's twofold, and some of it's pretty selfish. When I mentor or work with somebody, one, I have an opportunity to share some of the things that perhaps I've learned and help people navigate obstacles that they might be facing. But when we mentor people, what we start to understand, especially when we mentor in our industry or in our own organization, is some of the challenges people are facing are not challenges specific to them. And so what it starts to give you is insight into the culture or to obstacles, and many of those things are things that you can drive a change around. So it's a constant, almost agile feedback that you're given when you do it. It's also an ability to drive talent into different directions. I often spend time thinking with people that I mentor, and we've got this perception mostly that we need to follow a vertical path, and that there's a process of steps 1 to 10 to do something. And sometimes when you talk to people around skill set and passion, they start to realize that their ability is so much wider than just a vertical path of a role. And there are tons of different roles. So I'm passionate about mentoring people because very often when I work with people, there are completely other roles that they open themselves up to, that certainly progress and further their career and development. And it also helps me understand what's on the ground in the organization as well. And to be aware of some of the obstacles that perhaps I might not have had access to or might not have been aware of if I wasn't working with this.
What energizes you the most?
People and achievement. I'm a total extroverted thinker. So I had to learn to adapt to being a remote worker this year. I absolutely love being in the office or being in front of customers, being with people. Those collaborative sessions when you're sitting in a room and you're solving a problem, just brilliant. And that's both in a personal and a professional capacity. And then the achievement factor, whatever that achievement is, whether it's professional, again, whether it's personal, I'm constantly setting myself goals. Feel like I'm progressing and achieving is super energizing for me.
Your first holiday destination once all the travel bans are lifted?
Probably the Maldives.
Okay.
I absolutely love the Maldives. I love spending time in the water. I have 2 fabulous children who enjoy snorkeling, and it's one of those places that you just remove the complexity of life and you just be for a few days. So that's probably where I jump on a plane as soon as I'm able to do that.
Well, hopefully that's sooner than later. Leanne, thank you sincerely for what you shared. We'll have a lot of commonalities with our listeners, and I think they'll be really excited to hear it. I'm very humbled by your time and your sharing, so thank you sincerely.